Learning a new language is never a straight line. It is more like a journey where every step adds something small but important to your progress. When you begin at the A1 level, you're learning the very basics, and sometimes it feels like everything is new and difficult. But there always comes a moment when you want to move forward, when you want to understand more, speak more, and feel more confident. That next step is called the A2 level. Moving from A1 to A2 is not about becoming perfect or speaking like a native. It is about growing little by little, adding more words, building longer sentences, and understanding everyday conversations in a clearer way. This journey is possible for everyone, and it is not as far away as it may seem. What you need is patience, practice, and the right habits that keep you moving forward. In this lesson, we will explore what it really means to go from A1 to A2, the habits that help you make progress, and the mistakes you should avoid. By the end, you will see that A2 is not a dream in the distance. It is a step you can reach with daily effort and motivation. At the A1 level, you already have something very valuable: the ability to use English in simple situations. You can introduce yourself. You can talk about where you live. You can say your age, your job, or your favorite food. You can understand short questions like "What is your name?" or "Where are you from?" and you can answer with confidence. These are not small achievements. They are the foundation of your English. But A1 also has clear limits. At this level, you often use short phrases, sometimes only one or two words, and it can be difficult to connect ideas together. You may know how to say "I like pizza," but you may not know how to explain why you like it, or how often you eat it, or who you eat it with. Conversations at normal speed can feel too fast, and you may only catch one or two words instead of the full meaning. Reading longer texts can also be a challenge because the vocabulary feels new and unfamiliar. This is why A1 is often called the survival level. It gives you enough English to manage basic needs, to understand signs, to ask for directions, to buy something in a store, or to greet someone politely. But it is not enough to have deeper conversations or to describe your life with detail. The good news is that A1 is not the end. It is only the first step of a much bigger journey, and everything you have learned here will be the solid ground for your next level. At the A2 level, your English becomes more flexible. You are no longer limited to only short answers or single words. Instead, you can begin to express full ideas. You can describe your daily routine in detail. You can talk about your family, your hobbies, and your plans for the weekend. You can say not only "I like pizza," but also "I like pizza because it is easy to make, and I usually eat it with my friends on Friday night." At this level, conversations are still simple, but they are longer and more natural. You can ask and answer questions about travel, shopping, work, or school. You can understand directions more clearly, follow a basic story, or share your opinion about something familiar. You may not know every word, but you learn how to keep the conversation alive by using what you do know. A2 is also about listening with more confidence. Instead of understanding only one or two words, you start to follow the general meaning of a conversation. You can listen to someone speaking slowly and recognize the main points. You can watch a simple video or listen to a short story and understand enough to explain it in your own words. Reaching A2 does not mean you speak perfectly. Mistakes will still happen, and sometimes you will need help. But at this level, You feel that English is not just a list of phrases to memorize. It is a tool you can actually use in your daily life. The step from A1 to A2 can feel like a wall, but in reality, it is a bridge. It is not a sudden jump. It is a path that you walk little by little. Every time you learn a new word and use it in a real sentence, you are already moving across that bridge. Every time you listen to English and understand a little more than before, you are already taking another step forward. The bridge is built with small daily actions. At A1, you can say short things like, I go to work, but when you cross the bridge, you begin to expand it into, I go to work every morning at 8, and I usually drink coffee before I leave. This change may look small, but it shows how you are already growing into the A2 level. It is also important to remember that the bridge is not about speed. Some people cross it slowly, others a little faster, but the direction is the same for everyone. The more you listen, the more you read, the more you try to speak, the stronger your steps become. The mistakes you make are not a sign that you are stuck. They are the natural signs that you are moving forward. A 1 gives you the base. A 2 opens the door to longer conversations, to more detailed stories, and to a stronger connection with the language. The bridge is not far away. It is under your feet every time you practice. The first and most powerful habit to move from A1 to A2 is listening every single day. Listening is the foundation of language. The more you listen, the more familiar English becomes, and the more your brain starts to understand it naturally. Even if you do not catch every word, your mind begins to recognize sounds, patterns, and rhythm. This is how language grows inside you. Listening can be very simple. You can play an English podcast while you cook. You can listen to a short story before you go to sleep. Or you can watch a video with easy English. The important part is not how long you listen, but how often. 5 minutes every day is better than 1 hour only once a week, because constant listening trains your brain to stay connected with the language. At first, it may feel difficult, because you may not understand everything. But this is normal. You are not supposed to understand every single word. What matters is that you stay calm, listen again, and let the meaning become clearer over time. Every sentence you hear adds something to your progress, even if you do not notice it immediately. Listening daily creates a natural bridge to A2. It helps you recognize common phrases. It makes new words easier to remember, and it gives you confidence when you hear English outside of practice. The habit of listening every day is like water for a plant. Without it, the plant cannot grow, but with it, growth becomes natural and unstoppable. The second habit that moves you from A1 to A2 is expanding your vocabulary, but in a natural way. Vocabulary is like the bricks of a house. The more you have, the stronger your sentences become. At the A1 level, you already know the basic bricks, words like food, family, school, or work. But to reach A2, you need to add more words that help you describe your world with detail. The best way to learn vocabulary is not by memorizing long lists, but by using the words in real contexts. For example, instead of only learning the word apple, you can learn to say, I eat an apple in the morning because it gives me energy. When you connect a word with a full idea, it stays in your memory longer. You can expand your vocabulary step by step. Choose one theme, like food, travel, or daily activities, and learn the words connected to that theme. Practice them in sentences, write them in a notebook, and try to use them in your listening or speaking practice. Over time, these new words become part of your natural English. Another secret is to meet the same words again and again in different places. When you hear a new word in a story, then read it in a text and then use it in your own sentence. The word becomes yours. This repetition is the key to moving forward. Expanding vocabulary naturally does not mean learning hundreds of new words at once. It means slowly growing your language, one group of words at a time, until you can talk about your life with more clarity and confidence. The third habit that helps you cross from A1 to A2 is practicing longer sentences. At the beginning, it is normal to use very short answers like, I am fine, or I like music. These are correct, but they keep your English limited. To grow, you need to connect your ideas and make them longer, even if the grammar is not perfect. For example, instead of only saying, I like music, you can say, I like music because it helps me relax after a long day. Or instead of, I go to school, you can say, I go to school every morning and I usually meet my friends before class. Adding small details with words like and, but, or because makes your sentences more natural and closer to a two. Practicing longer sentences also trains your mind to think in English. When you only use short answers, your brain does not have to work much. But when you try to explain more, your brain starts building connections and your fluency grows. Even if you make mistakes, you are already learning to express yourself in a deeper way. This habit is simple to practice. Every time you give an answer, try to add one more detail. Every time you describe something, add one more sentence. Over time, your short phrases turn into small stories, and your English becomes stronger. Longer sentences are like small bridges inside your speaking. They connect your ideas, they show more about who you are, and they prepare you to handle real conversations. The fourth habit that helps you move from A1 to A2 is reading simple stories. Reading gives you the chance to see the language in action, to watch how words and sentences connect together, and to notice patterns that you can use in your own speaking. When you read, you are not only learning new words, you are also learning how English works in real life. At the beginning, the stories should be short and easy. They can be dialogues, small articles, or even children's books. The goal is not to read something difficult, but to read something that you can enjoy and understand. When you read about characters, about their actions and feelings, you connect with the language in a natural way. Reading also helps you remember vocabulary. When you meet the same words many times in different sentences, they stop being new and start feeling familiar. For example, if you read a story where the character walks to the park, and later another story where someone walks to school, the word walk becomes a part of your language without needing long study. Another benefit is that reading teaches you how to make your own sentences longer. You see how writers use and, because, or but, and you can copy that style when you speak. The more you read, the easier it becomes to create your own small stories in English. Reading simple stories is like opening a window to another world. It makes your vocabulary richer, your sentences stronger, and your confidence higher, all of which bring you closer to the A2 level. The fifth habit that takes you from A1 to A2 is speaking without fear. Many learners understand English but feel afraid to use it. They worry about making mistakes, about not finding the right word, or about sounding strange. But mistakes are not the enemy. They are the sign that you are learning. Every mistake shows that you are trying, and every attempt brings you closer to real progress. Speaking without fear does not mean speaking perfectly. It means opening your mouth and letting the words come out, even if they are not always correct. You can practice by talking to yourself, describing what you are doing, or telling a short story in English. You can also practice with a friend, a teacher, or even by recording your own voice and listening back. The important part is to use your English actively. At A1, it is common to answer with only one word. But when you speak more, you train your brain to build longer ideas. For example, instead of only saying coffee, you can say, I drink coffee every morning because it gives me energy. Speaking in this way helps you cross the bridge into A2. The more you speak, the less fear you feel. Confidence grows with action, not with waiting. Even small moments of speaking, ordering food, greeting someone, or asking a question make a difference. Every time you speak, you are teaching yourself that English is not something to fear, but something to enjoy. Speaking without fear is like turning on a light. At first, the room feels dark and uncertain. But the more you practice, the brighter it becomes, until English feels natural and alive in your daily life. On the journey from A1 to A2, many learners face the same mistakes again and again. Knowing these mistakes helps you avoid them and continue moving forward with confidence. One common mistake is trying to speak too fast without having the vocabulary to support your ideas. When you push yourself to speak quickly, you may forget words, lose structure, and feel frustrated. It is better to speak slowly, with clear and simple sentences, and add more words step by step. Another mistake is depending only on memorized lists of words. Memorizing alone may give you knowledge, but it does not give you fluency. Words need context, and they need practice. Learning 10 new words a day without using them in sentences will not help you reach A2. Instead, practice those words in real situations, in reading, in writing, and in speaking. A third mistake is ignoring listening practice. Some learners focus only on grammar exercises or vocabulary drills, but they forget that listening is the key to real understanding. Without listening, your progress becomes slow because you cannot connect your knowledge to the way people actually use the language. Finally, a very common mistake is fear of making errors. Some learners prefer to stay silent rather than risk speaking incorrectly. But silence does not teach you anything, only practice does. Every mistake is an opportunity to learn, and each correction is a step forward. Avoiding these mistakes is like clearing stones from a path. The road from A1 to A2 becomes smoother, and your progress becomes faster when you walk without unnecessary obstacles. Moving from A1 to A2 is not only about learning new words or building longer sentences. It is also about having the right mindset. Your attitude toward English can make the difference between stopping early or continuing to grow. The mindset of growth begins with patience. Language does not grow in one day. It grows like a tree, little by little, with small actions repeated over time. If you expect quick results, you may feel frustrated. But if you accept that every day of practice adds a new branch, a new leaf, or a new root, you will see your English becoming stronger step by step. Another part of this mindset is curiosity. When you hear a new word, do not feel afraid of it. Instead, see it as an invitation. Ask yourself what it means. Look for examples and try to use it. Curiosity makes learning enjoyable, and enjoyment keeps your motivation alive. The mindset of growth also means celebrating progress, even if it feels small. When you understand a sentence you could not understand before, that is growth. When you say something a little longer than yesterday, that is progress. When you finish listening to an English story without stopping, that is victory. These moments matter because they remind you that you are moving forward. Finally, the mindset of growth means accepting mistakes as part of the journey. Mistakes are not failures. They are signs of movement. If you never make mistakes, it means you are not trying. Growth happens when you try, when you fall, and when you stand up again with more experience than before. With the right mindset, A2 is not only possible, it is inevitable. Reaching the A2 level is not about talent or luck. It is about building small habits step by step and keeping the right attitude along the way. A1 gave you the base, the ability to introduce yourself, to ask simple questions to survive in English. A2 opens the door to something greater. Longer conversations, deeper stories, and more confidence when you use the language in real life. The path from A1 to A2 is made of listening every day, expanding your vocabulary naturally, practicing longer sentences, reading simple stories, and speaking without fear. Each of these habits is simple on its own, but together they create the bridge that carries you forward. When you stay consistent, English stops feeling like something distant and starts becoming part of your daily life. Remember that mistakes are not the end. They are proof that you are moving. Every word you learn, every sentence you build, and every time you listen is another step on your journey. With patience, curiosity, and courage, you will discover that A2 is not far away. It is closer than you think, waiting for you on the other side of practice. So keep going, keep listening, keep reading, keep speaking, and keep believing. Your progress is already happening, and every day brings you closer to the English you dream of.